Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Based off the 1971 children's book by Dr. Seuss, The Lorax is a children's film directed by Chris Renaud, released in 2012, containing a strong environmental message for younger audiences. The film follows Ted, a 12-year-old boy living in a town called Thneedville, a place where nature is virtually non-existent as a result of an air company's manipulation for economic gain. To impress the love of his life, Ted begins his quest to find a real truffula tree, which leads him to the Onceler, the man responsible for the destruction of all the trees. Upon hearing his backstory of how the Onceler disregarded the Lorax's warning to protect and love the trees, resulting in a negative outcome for all, Ted is given a mission by the Onceler to plant the last truffula seed in the middle of Thneedville. After battling Mr. O'Hare and his posse, who do not want the truth of trees producing oxygen to be exposed, Ted successfully gathers the whole town together and plants the seed, saving the trees and putting an end to the exploitative O'Hare Air business. In the end, the Onceler is reunited with the Lorax thanks to Ted, who helped restore the trees, and the film ends on a motivational note through its call to action saying, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." Without a doubt, apart from the film's scathing critique on contemporary corporate dishonesty and satirical commentary on today's marketing and advertising strategies, the predominant message of the Lorax is to protect and care for the environment. However, how effectively does the film communicate this message to its younger audience? In this video essay, I will be exploring from an ecocritical perspective the idealized and helpless portrayal of nature in this film, its dependent relationship to the human characters, and how that relationship ultimately motivates young viewers to become more environmentally conscious and take responsibility for the environment. The first time nature is introduced in the film is through a painting that Audrey shows Ted, where she explains to him what real truffula trees are. As the awe-inspiring music plays in the background, the two characters look up at the towering, colorful painting as Audrey idealizes the texture and smell of the trees.
What are those?
Those are trees. Real ones. They used to grow all around here. And people said that the touch of their tufts was softer than anything, even silk. And they smelled like butterfly milk.
Wow.
Because this is also the first time the audience is introduced to the truffula trees without any prior knowledge, besides the fact that they do not exist in Thneedville, this idealized perspective sets the stage for how we perceive nature for the rest of the film. The next significant encounter with nature the audience has is through the Onceler's story on how he began his Thneed business by cutting down trees. When the young Onceler first encounters the forest of truffula trees, he describes it as paradise, and through the combination of the Spielberg face, the vibrant colors of the trees, and of course, the once again awe-inspiring background music, the audience is manipulated to view nature in this idealized perspective.
This is the most beautiful place, I have ever seen.
Through the animals introduced in this scene, nature is also portrayed as innocent, helpless, and quote-unquote good. As soon as the Onceler appears, the fish, bears, and birds immediately greet him, even performing a welcoming serenade by humming and harmonizing. Through this moment, the animals are portrayed as warm and good-natured, willing to accept a stranger into their own habitat. It is only until they understand they are in danger as the Onceler unpacks his tools that they attempt to stop him.
What?
However, their innocence is shown through their ability to be easily persuaded and distracted by marshmallows, while a direct threat to themselves and their habitat stands in front of them. The fact that they are constantly beaten around and bullied by humans shows their powerlessness and inability to fight back. In other words, it becomes very clear that humans have more power than nature in this film. It is also important to note that compared to other animated movies in which the animals are highly anthropomorphized, such as The Lion King or Happy Feet, the animals in the Lorax cannot speak, nor do they display any particular human-like behavior. Though their expressions are human enough to be able to sympathize with them, it can be suggested that anthropomorphism was not used for the most part in order to create a clear distinction between what is animal and what is human. In other words, in this film, there exists a clear line between nature and man. The only non-human creature that does display any human-like qualities is the Lorax, a mystical creature described as the guardian of the forest and the speaker for trees.
What? I'm the Lorax, guardian of the forest. I speak for the trees.
Although he can talk, displays human emotion, and is self-aware, because he is still not a human being, the only power he has in protecting the forest is warning the Onceler to not cut down the trees.
You have been warned.
Which is ultimately not enough to stop his Thanid business from wiping the entire forest out. Once again, all the creatures in nature that are not human are portrayed as inferior victims to human authority, unable to defend themselves against human abuse and exploitation. For example, the scene in which all the animals and the Lorax are forced to leave the once thriving forest after the last tree is cut down alludes to Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, further displaying their helplessness and evoking a sympathetic emotional response from the viewers.
Thanks to you and your hacking and smogging and glupping, they can't live here anymore.
The fact that in the end the trees are only restored through Ted also portrays nature as dependent on humans for survival. As a result of the inferiority of nature to man in this film, nature is conquered by humans. In other words, the majority of the film shows an anthropocentric view of nature as the trees are cut down to be made into Thanids for human use. As shown earlier in the film, air is also sold for profit, and while it seems as though towards the end of the film, Ted understands the intrinsic value of the trees, his initial motivation to find a tree is solely to impress the girl of his dreams. On the other hand, the characters who display a more ecocentric way of thought are Audrey, who loves trees for being trees, Ted's grandmother, who always saves the day, the older Onceler, who commissions Ted to save the trees, and the Lorax, who represents nature itself. The fact that by the end of the film, the characters who represent anthropocentrism, namely O'Hare and the young Onceler, are punished, and the characters who represent ecocentrism are rewarded, strongly suggests that The Lorax is a highly ecocentric film. Through its call to action at the end, the message of this film is to motivate individual viewers to be the catalyst for environmental change. Overall, although the film certainly contains inaccurate exaggerations of nature in the real world, such as the animals' harmlessness and the idea that nature cannot survive without humans while humans can, the film effectively executes its message regardless, motivating young viewers to value and protect nature to become the next generation to make a difference.